Hello and welcome to the tutorial of objective setting. Setting personal objectives for individuals, departments or the organisation as a whole is an important part of the larger performance management process. As leaders and managers, we have a vital role in this process, aligning objectives to the organisational goals while providing measurement of personal and professional performance. Throughout this tutorial, we will explain why objectives are set, describe situations and when to set objectives, consider SMART objectives, and explain what to avoid when objective setting. So why set objectives? Objectives are important for a number of reasons, and you may have found that you've had to set objectives for both your employees and also yourself in order to measure the behaviour and your performance throughout the performance appraisal year. But we set objectives to focus on performance improvement, both for yourself and, importantly, the others that you're responsible for. It is important that you establish clear goals. You can then establish the objectives that are met in order to achieve these goals. If we fail to set goals and objectives, it is impossible to establish whether we are successful or not. My old mantra is, you must measure the effect of what you're striving to achieve. It is important that we distinguish between a goal and an objective. The goal is where we want to be. What is the end result? So, for example, I want Wales to win the Six Nations in 2018. However, in order for the Welsh team to achieve that goal, there will need to be a series of objectives set that will allow them to achieve it. Essentially, therefore, the objectives are the ways in which they would achieve winning the Six Nations. So who should set objectives? Well, it's important that you distinguish between the person who is objective setting and those who are actually in receipt of the objectives. As line management, you have a key role in this process. From my experience, it was important to get the individuals to settle into the organisation if they were a new starter or if they were new to the department, understand the business and the role of their department, and then begin to set their own objectives. However, once it came to a quarterly review or monthly meeting with that employee, it would be then for me as the line manager to align my objectives with that of the individual. So it will be the organisational priorities, the organisation's objectives that are aligned to you and therefore should align to your employees. You can also set your own objectives. There may be something that interests you within the organisation that you want to attain. This could be personal or indeed professional. You may even speak to colleagues about what they're doing in the organisation and how you can influence them. What is important is that objectives align to what the organisation is striving to achieve. Your objectives and your behaviour contributes to the performance of that organisation. Therefore, the objectives are a vital part of communicating the behaviour which is required of you. Line management, therefore, have a key role in setting these objectives. You have a key role in determining your own objectives and also assessing what your contribution is to the organisation. Within my HR role, I am often asked by line management, so when should I set objectives for my employees? Well, ideally, this would start at the commencement of their employment. From my experience, I have always ensured that employees have time in which to adjust to the new environment and understand the business, what its goals and priorities are. Once this is understood and the employee is more embedded into the department and organisation, then they have a greater context as to what needs to be achieved. Understanding their role and place is vital. It is also vital that the line manager sets the objectives upon commencement in order to affirm induction and the onboarding process. If setting objectives at the commencement of employment, then it may be necessary to wait 1 or 2 months in order for the employee to assimilate the business, and for them, why not empower them to set their own objectives? You would then align these to your priorities and goals and have an agreed set of objectives. An alternative commencement would be that of the annual appraisal. Here, objectives are set for the next 12 months that align to the corporate goals. Of course, these will adjust throughout the year as the external environment affects the organisation and its priorities. It is therefore important that between the 6 and 8 month point, that line managers meet with employees to discuss the objectives, to see whether or not they're being met. If not, question why not, and what are you putting in place in order to allow the employee to meet those objectives. If objectives are met, of course, then it's important that we renew those objectives, ensuring they align with the organisational priorities. At the end of the performance management process is the annual appraisal. This is a great opportunity in which to review the objectives. How were they met? If they weren't met, again, question why not? Had something changed? Were they relevant? If they were met, then what was the outcome of that objective? It is also the opportunity in which to set new objectives for the forthcoming appraisal year. When setting objectives, it is important that they are what we call SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-related. They should firstly be specific, clear, and well-defined. They should describe the result and the desired way that is detailed and focused. They should be measurable. You should be able to measure the outcome of what you're asking the individual to do. For example, you want the individual to create a diversity and inclusion training program that will allow 65% of current employees to be trained within 8 months. Therefore, is the objective achievable? Can that individual actually achieve 65% within 8 months? So it's important that you have the capabilities and importantly the resources available for that individual to try and achieve those objectives. The objectives should be relevant. It should achieve the end goal. It should have relevance to the organisation. It should have relevance to the role in which the individual is performing in. And finally, it should be time-related or time-bound. We call this achieving an objective in a defined timescale. So, for example, in the diversity and inclusion task, the individual was asked to complete the activity within 6 months. Was this specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-related? So what can objectives cover? Objectives should cover a broad spectrum of activity within the business. This can include action or initiative type objectives. So for example, if there is a project on the horizon that you want the individual to be part of to demonstrate particular qualities and behaviours, then this may be an excellent opportunity to set an objective that is aligned to that new project or goal. Often I am asked, why are we setting personal objectives? In my view, personal objectives are very powerful in developing the individual, in which their skills, qualities and behaviours can then contribute to the organisation as a whole. Personal objectives could be anything from undertaking a training course that they have a particular interest in, However, the softer skills gained could contribute to the business. Professional objectives. These can include attendance at training courses that enhance the profile or contribution to the role. And indeed, training and development should be key and central to any objective setting in order to engage, motivate, retain our employees within the business. So, when objectives set in, as a line manager, you would hopefully have met with the individual to discuss what you want them to achieve over the next 12 months or so. Throughout this dialogue, you would have hopefully understood what the individual also wants to achieve over that period and come to a mutually set of objectives in which you're both agreed upon for them to be achieved. Ensure, however, that what you have set is measurable, and ensure you have a way of tracking and recording the behaviour of the person in order that they can achieve the objective. Try to avoid setting unachievable objectives. This can undermine your role as a line manager, the trust and confidence in your ability to set objectives, and also put that person into immediate stress instead of stretch, which may have been what you tried to initially thought to achieve. Setting unrealistic objectives that are not aligned to the business is again a pitfall. Constraining objectives to tight deadlines that aren't achievable can also undermine the quality of the objective. As a line manager, you have a responsibility to ensure that there are adequate resources in place for the individual to carry out their role and, importantly, the objectives that you have set. If the resources aren't adequate, consider why and what else could be put in place, or what other objectives could be set. And finally, ensure that you review the objectives. We've already covered the periods in which this could be reviewed, and there are countless opportunities throughout the 12-month period in which objectives can be reviewed. Objective setting is not just part of the performance management process. It's about delivering your role as a line manager and leader. If we were talking in capability terms, then this is a great way of assessing employee capability and delivery. Any failings can clearly be measured, managed, and training put in place to try and improve capability and performance if required. Any future failings after this can then be measured and steps put in place to performance management individuals if required. And that concludes today's tutorial on objective setting. I hope you enjoyed it and got some more information on how to set objectives. And of course, if you want to learn more about me and what I can offer in terms of HR consultancy and leadership development, then why not contact me at carterjameshr@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.